I'm Shannyn Moore, and I'm so glad you're joining us. We've been doing some interesting panels the last several weeks that have been really specific on issues. And tonight we've got kind of a free-for-all panel for sure, with lots and lots of topics that may have gotten a little bit past you because some of them have been a little under the radar, but we're going to get those. And we're also going to be talking to Bill Sherwonit about bear snaring. I know. It's going to be like a nature show, like Shannyn Moore's Alaska, only I'll give it back when I'm done, unlike other people's Alaska. You know what I mean. Anyway, we're going to run to a break. We're going to be right back. It's going to be fabulous. Stay with us. Welcome back. My first guest is a former geologist turned freelance wilderness writer. He's also authored 13 books about Alaska and is a regular contributor to the Anchorage Daily News, which is a pretty fancy gig, I'm telling you. Please welcome Bill Sherwonit. I am so glad you're here.
Thanks, me too.
It is such a pleasure to see you and get to talk to you. I mean, I read what you write, and the one thing I really pick up from your writing more than I do a lot of other people that write about outdoor Alaska is that it seems to be that when you are outside and you're reporting the things that you do, that it's your church. I mean, there's something really sacred about our environment and where we live that you bring across.
Thank you. That's nice of you to say that. I think you hit the nail on the head in a way. I think for me, I find the sacred most frequently out in the larger, wilder world. And actually, I've talked to a lot of my friends about this, and even those who are church-going folks. For a lot of my friends, and I'm sure a lot of Alaskans, the place they actually feel most spiritual is out in nature. So it's not just me.
Well, it would make sense. I mean, if you believe that there's a creator that made this world, to be in that art project, then you should be connecting to it and feeling that. So I just wanted to I wanted to say thank you for the way you write.
Thank you.
You're here specifically right now to talk about a practice that Alaska is adopting and has adopted, which is the snaring of bears. And Tony Knowles was here talking about this not too long ago,
right.
and it's still a fight. And I wanted to remind people what's happening. Can you explain a little bit about, well, why you don't like it?
Okay. Well, let me say first, I've never seen a snared bear, which is probably a good thing because I know some people and actually some biologists who have, and it's apparently, especially with grizzly bears, because first of all, I think the snaring of any bear, the snaring and shooting of bears, which is a brand new policy, only within the last year or two, is pretty horrific. But grizzly bears especially, and these are the latest manifestation of predator control in Alaska is to go after grizzly bears. And grizzly bears, more than black bears, tend to be, you know, we Alaskans all know grizzlies are more aggressive, and what I've been told is that when grizzly bears get snared, they just go crazy, and it's a mix of fear and then just trying to get out of there. You know, it's dangerous to project feelings onto other critters, human feelings. But I mean, these are biologists talking about it, and they said, a couple have said, the bears go crazy with rage and fear. And another really, to me, awful thing about it is that the snaring, it's indiscriminate. So any bear can get caught. They try to do it so that the snares are far enough off the ground that they'll get adults. But you can't discriminate between an adult male bear and an adult female, so they can catch female bears with cubs. And the new policy actually allows these so-called snare permittees. So not even the state employees are doing it, not the professionals. They're allowing members of the general public to go out and do this.
Do you know, and I don't know that we wanted everyone to know that. Just kidding.
Yeah. But
no,
let me just continue. So you can get a mom caught in one of these snares with cubs. And so what do you think the cubs are going to be doing? The mom is going to be going crazy because she's caught. And so the cubs are going to be going crazy. And then when the snare permittee finally comes to dispatch the mom, he has the option of killing the cubs also. However, if he only kills the mom, what do you think is going to happen to the cubs, especially really young cubs? The cubs are likely going to either get killed by another critter, and or most likely they're going to starve to death. And so it's like, it's horrific. And it's a really, if, you know, I tend to disagree with the state's predator control policies generally, but the state has been getting more and more extreme in the steps that it's taking. It's like, it's reached a place, awful things are done to wolves too. We're talking about, we'll focus on bears tonight, but it's reached a place where the state is almost, the Board of Game, what the Board of Game has done, it's incrementally gotten more and more extreme in how it gets rid of predators. And so it's almost like, is the public paying attention? And it's like, to date, there's not been enough pushback against the Board of Game. And so it's like they keep taking these increasingly extreme steps. And I think with the snaring of bears, they've finally gone over the edge. And so it's like in recent weeks, I've talked to a number of people. You know, I tend to be considered a greenie, and I wear my green proudly. But biologists have come out of it against it, as Tony Knowles talked about, Tony Knowles himself, and then hunters and guides have come out against it, and members of the Native Alaska community have come out against it. So it's like gradually we're building this.
Well, it's a coalition.
A coalition, exactly, across the board.
And I grew up with a trap line. I've hunted. I appreciate part of that Alaskan lifestyle, but there is a real difference between you going out and hunting and you just going out and just indiscriminately slaughtering. It's very, very different. I think that hunters are going to be the ones that are going to have to stand up to this sort of practice. And I don't know why the Board of Game just can't take Viagra like everybody else that has a problem with their size. Just saying. Seriously, I have no other reason to think there's anything else. We've got to run to a break. I'm so glad that you were here with us. I know there's something that you want me to sign, and I'm really wanting to sign it.
When we come back from the break, we'll have Shannyn sign our petition.
Oh, I got to sign it right now.
Oh, okay.
I got to sign it right now. There are petitions. Where can people find these while I'm signing this one?
First, there's a Valerie Connor with the Alaska Center for the Environment is in the audience, and she'll be taking signatures here. But there's also an online petition. Oh, great. We'll make sure that we link that on More Up North's Facebook page and make sure that we get as many people as we can to sign that. And if you're a hunter, it's time to stand up to the killers, honestly. Thank you so much for being here, Bill Sherwonit. We'll be right back with our panel. All right. Welcome back. We discussed on the break with our panel, who you're about to meet, and decided the last segment of this show is going to be done in interpretive dance. So you're going to want to stay tuned. I'm just telling you right now. And of course, I've done it once. I'm doing it again. I got a preacher in a bar. I'm so proud. He's the pastor at St. Mary's Episcopal Church, a man who actually reads that book that they talk about a lot and practices what he preaches.
Please welcome the Reverend Michael Burke. She's absolutely one of my favorite writers, an award-winning writer covering life and politics for the Anchorage Daily News, that liberal rag, whatever. Please hello to Julie O'Malley. And he's a reporter for the Alaska Dispatch, and he's covering rural Alaska and politics. Please welcome Alex DeMarban. Oh my gosh. This is so much fun, isn't it? It's like, I want to have a dinner party, invite 3 people. Who would they be? Oh, let's do it in front of people and film it. Call it a show.
Where's the food?
I know, we've got food. They've got food.
We got
here.
some beer.
Yeah, you got beer. What do you need?
Right.
No, thank you all for being here. There's so many different things going on right now, just because we've got election coming up now. We've got on a municipal level, we've got Juneau, which you've been covering wonderfully, and it's insane
Thanks.
down there.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you, Juneau, I know you took the fluoride out of your water, but the crazy, you got to stop putting that in, because it's working. Watching all of that, we've got a hunger strike down there. We've got the clown caucus that is the GOP right now. Like, the car drives up and 4 crazy people get out and then they talk, and then they get back in and you go, wow, so one of them could be president. I mean, I'm like, okay, give me 3 sane human beings to tell me to back away from the cliff. And here you are. So first, in Juneau this week, yes, we're really going to talk about it, because this is becoming a national story. One of Alaska's finest, his name is Gordon Warren Epperly, and I'd like to smack the white right out of him, I'll tell you right now. He has filed a formal complaint with the Department of Elections, Division of Elections, that says that Barack Obama should not be on our ballot in November because he is mulatto and Negro. And I know mulatto's kind of an old word. Like, no, it's gelato is the ice cream. Mulatto is a word for people of mixed race. So when you, Julie, I'm going to start with you because you're like, really? Do we have to talk about Alaska's crazy? There's so much. But
that's not exactly what I said. Yeah, okay.
I've been hearing for a long time, this group, this Tea Party, these people aren't racist. It's not about being racist. And so the complaint sort of seems a bit racist.
Yes. I mean, the issue of, I don't know. I read it. I couldn't understand the citizenship argument that he made. I guess most of the state probably is mixed race. If you were to look at the demographics of our city, probably about half of people are of color or, biracial. So it starts getting really confusing if you're started trying to say that citizens of mixed race background are not citizens and not fit to be president. But this just is one of many sort of, and we're like behind the curve like everything in Alaska. This is another one of these kind of things, which,
right.
And it also, I think, makes an argument about, the whole, like, is he really born in the United States thing? And it's like, that is so played out. And also has been disproven. So in some ways, like, talking about it just gives him extra press, and he should just, like, have his quiet little piece of paper filed with the court, and we should just ignore it. That's my opinion, but.
Right, well, you're right about Kenyan. You're right about the whole, he's Kenyan. I mean,
Yeah.
Kenyan's sort of the new N-word, I think. I mean, it's really, they use it a lot. This week we're seeing it on a national level. I mean, it's not just some clown in Juneau who's like, talking about his Aryan pride or whatever. Mm-hmm. I want to be referred to as an Irish American from now on, by the way, just so you know. Human race. What do you think about all this? I mean, it's strange, isn't it? You have a fantastic point, by the way, of how much of the state is mixed race.
It's difficult for the census to count the Alaska Native population because so much of the population is mixed race. So, I mean, and there's a much larger group of people who identify as Alaska Native than the census is able to count. So there's a good example. But, most of the school district now is of color. So, and most of the largest, fastest growing group of that group is people who identify with more than one race. So I don't know, but this guy, I'm not too worried about it personally. I don't know.
Well, you know, Barack Obama lost by 20 points in the last election. Apparently now there's a threat.
May lose by 20.5 if this keeps up. You know, I'm just grateful. You know, my life is so much enriched, Shannon, because you've enlightened me about this story. I just want to hear you say mulatto again.
No, you know what? It was really strange to have to explain what that word meant to my daughter. Like, because I was on the phone, I was like, oh my God, he's saying he doesn't have any political rights, only civil rights, because of the timing of the Constitution, he's a mulatto and a Negro, and blah, blah, blah. And my daughter was like, what are you talking about? What's a mulatto?
Yeah.
It's like not even a word, Alex.
Right, yeah, I don't think it is a word, is it?
Well, I mean,
I think it is in the dictionary.
No, I know, I'm just kidding. But, yeah, I think, to me, in Alaska, we have a disproportionate share of everything, and unfortunately, this just shows once again that we have a disproportionate share of wackos. And I don't think it's a very serious threat, but it is fun to cover. It makes our life interesting as journalists in Alaska, and we've got a lot of these stories.
right.
In fact, now Joe Miller is attacking Obama for not taking back Russia's islands,
Right.
Which is another great fringe entertainment for us journalists up here. So
I have been smacking that story down on Twitter, and people at home are like, what? Obama's giving away parts of Alaska's oil-rich land.
Right,
He's
full of
giving
oil,
them.
yeah.
It's full of oil. He's giving them back to Russia, and no questions asked. And well, we got to take a break, but we'll actually. I'm glad you brought this up because Joe Miller, you're still crazy, and you're stirring up stuff for silliness reasons, which is kind of what you do, but you're just wrong. So we'll come back and talk about that a little bit. We've got lots of other things to hit other than crazy you, Guy, and Juno. I'm watching you. Welcome back. I am so glad that Alex brought up this story of the Russian islands, Alaska's islands that are oil rich that Obama is giving away. Apparently, he put it on eBay, like Sarah's jet. I know. It's this ludicrous story that Obama hates America so much he's giving Alaska to the Russians. Alex, you want to talk a little bit about the history of this? Because my understanding it goes back to 1977 and Kissinger from the start, right?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, a lot of Alaskans have believed that those islands belong to the U.S., and those are all spread out across a huge swath of territory along Russia's coast, so they would be impossible to maintain. But essentially, I understand that Congress ratified the maritime boundary in 1990.
With the USSR at that time.
Yeah, with the Soviet Union, and so then the Soviet Union dissolved, and from what I understand, never had its opportunity to finalize the deal. So, from what Joe Miller argues, there's this, potential out there for the U.S. to say, "Hey, the deal is not done. We can take these islands back." And the State Department has essentially dismissed it time and again. And I think even Bill Clinton wrote a letter saying, "Sorry, it's not happening." But it's just a crazy notion that a lot of Alaskans, including Daniel DiNardo,
God rest his soul.
Was very fond of making in his, with his hand-drawn maps, and when he was campaigning for office, he was always, for any office, of course, but he was always complaining about these islands and how they would be the solution to Alaska's economic issues, because they had so much oil around them. So anyway, it was just kind of this crazy notion that fringe candidates have followed for a long time.
Well, French, exactly. We've seen, if you look on a map, they're up over the top of the Kamchatka Peninsula. I mean, they're like...
Well, some are on the Kamchatka Peninsula,
yeah, and
then
some
most
of
them are up at the top of Russia.
Right, they're like over the top of Russia.
Yeah, huge. I mean, probably a couple thousand miles away in some
I
cases.
think we ought to take BC. Just take it. I mean, it's between us and Seattle. It's right there. Right. And they have health care and hockey. I'm kidding. I'm not declaring war on Canada. Don't start anything. But but it's part of this whole drumming up that these decisions are being made to rip off America because the president hates America. And
Right.
and these, by the way, these
And
islands.
he hates oil. So Miller's argument is that, you know, he hates oil so much, that's why he won't take these islands back. So
Right.
it gets even more
Which is
entertaining.
why the Chukchi and Beaufort are like zip, and there's something
Right.
puking out right now at another place. And there's actually oil production, domestic oil production is higher right now than it was during the 8 years of Bush. So
I
it's
agree.
not like he hates oil. I think it's just they hate him. And there's that whole Negro mulatto thing. I don't know if that has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But it was never sold to us. Those islands were never sold to us. When Alaska was bought
No, I
out of
don't
the
think
back
they
of
would
a
need to-
van.
Any kind of claims to them would be very frivolous. You know, maybe a boat landed with a couple with a party on it, and they stuck a flag in there, and that would be about it. Maybe in one case. So it's pretty frivolous.
Well, you know, it's funny
So
because
we'd probably have to go to war with Russia to get these back. So
yeah, I don't think we can fit that in. We're kind of
I don't think we can
busy
afford
with,
it right now.
We can't afford it, and we're already putting, you know, Iran on layaway program.
Right, right.
So yeah, I'm concerned about that. No, it's just the whole function though of the sale of Russia was brought up because of this, and I had a couple of first Alaskan natives who were emailing me, calling the show, like, look, Shannyn, those islands belong to who because who bought them from who that stole them in the first place? And it was like this big conversation about, you know, they're like, Alaska was bought out of the back of a van.
Right.
Some guys stole it, and then they're like, wait a minute, why don't we just give them all? Why don't we give those islands all back to the circumpolar northern people? You know, it was just this.
Maybe you should propose that.
It created an interesting discussion though of like the whole sale and everything.
Right, yeah.
Several other things going on, and Alex, you've been writing a tremendous amount about the myths of aces. Because I don't know if you know this or not, Alaska's closed for business.
Right, that's right. So we don't have any explorers up there.
I know, it's weird, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, I've been writing a lot about it. Amanda Coyne, I have to give her credit for pushing the Myths series. Really, I was just kind of a bit player in that whole effort. But it was all really her idea, largely, and primarily stemming from the issue of how much our oil companies really being taxed, because there's the notion that a lot of Alaskans have that they're taxed at 90%. So in other words, at $100 a barrel of oil, which is what we've been somewhat close to for a while, roughly. That they only get $10 out of that.
Right.
And that's absolutely not the case from the state officials that we have talked to, and the state's tax on oil is about $40 a barrel on that $100 barrel of oil when you get down to it.
Because it's ours.
Yeah. So it's it's a fair amount, but it's not out of the realm from what many other provinces are charging. So
it's actually considerably less than what some are charging.
I believe so. Yeah. And so that's what the whole series was founded around, I believe, was just that initial myth, and then there were a lot of other associated myths that have come out in recent months related to that.
Those are called campaigns
That
at this point.
yeah.
You know, they really have been. And
Lies
where
or
that
lies.
all wraps around to is that whatever, because we're an owner state, which we've been talking about a lot on this show, because I
Right.
really don't think that a lot of Alaskans understand and appreciate and feel responsible for that concept, that we are different and that we are owners, and that's not a tax completely, that's a royalty because it belongs to us, like explaining that. But the reason that it was set up that way was so we could take care of ourselves. Because we're a bunch of whiny babies that want things like food and heat and school and roads, you know. So that's how we pay for it. So if we give that away, we're not going to be able to take care of those things. And we've got to run to a break. I want to come back and talk about a couple of those things. One is SB3. We've got a hunger strike going on right now in Juneau. I think it's day 16, 17 right now. And, you know, to feed kids, which I heard on the radio this week from a KGO peer, Why would we give 15 cents more a day for these kids? Don't they know that we have an obesity problem in this country with children? Yeah. Exactly. I would have had him on the show, but he's too large to fit here. I know that was mean. I can't believe I said something snarky to a guy that doesn't want to feed little fat kids. I'm such a bitch. Okay, we'll be right back. All right. Welcome back. I'm Shannyn Moore. I'm really glad you're joining us. And a couple of things that we should hit. One, Senate Bill 3 is sitting in the House. House Finance specifically. It is a bill to give 15 cents a day to school lunches for poor kids. We have 51,000 kids who are food insecure, and for some reason it's really held up. I know. I think it's like $2 million a year compared to the $2 billion a year that Governor Parnell says that we can't afford not to give them, but we can't afford $2 million to help feed kids a higher quality of meal. Bill Stoltz, who I don't know, this may surprise you guys. I was shocked to find out this week he is single. I know. I just thought that guy's got to have a wife and a bunch of kids. Hot. So he's holding this up, and I don't know why. And maybe it's because I really like this bill and I made fun of him for baking Christmas cookies naked or in his whitey-tighties, which I think is weird. But it's okay, dude. Like, let it go. Isn't there? And if you don't like me, fine, Mr. Stoltz. I don't want to marry you. But here's the thing: is like there's a preacher here, and I want to ask him what it is about. Like that whole 5 loaves and 2 fishes, or was it 2 fishes and 5 loaves? Was that socialism? Because it seemed like Jesus took the one person who was responsible, who brought their lunch to the meeting, and then fed 5,000.
That's what they say.
Is this like, how can we not boil this down to like feeding? I'm asking the craziest. That was the craziest.
No, I agree with you though.
Yeah.
Definitely a socialist, yeah.
That's a little bit social.
No,
I mean,
yeah,
that would be
very much
called
so, yeah.
socialism now. They'd be like, Jesus Christ, he's a socialist. But they would be talking about him.
Plus
Except
he
in
wore
kindergarten.
sandals.
They call it sharing.
Oh, that's right. I mean, so, I mean, can you believe that we're living in a state that is saying things like, oh, I don't know, feeding these kids, you know, their parents are losers, and maybe if their kids are hungry, they'll show up to work. Like, really?
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, I have a bias. I don't know if I should address the question, because the truth is I'm a kid who grew up on free lunches. I mean, I grew up in government cheese. My family qualified for free lunch at school. You know, that's what put me through. So I'm probably a little closer to this maybe than some of the people that oppose the bill and are having a bit of a struggle to figure out where we come up with an extra 15 cents.
15 cents. So tell me, like, what was
now,
that
if we
like?
sold those islands,
If we sold them instead of gave them away,
that's all I'm saying.
we might even be able to get health care. Hell, well, that'd be awesome. So what was it like to grow up poor like that? Did you feel like there was a stigma? Did you feel, were you hungry? Did you worry about your parents being stressed that ends were hard to meet?
This came up in a conversation I had a few weeks ago, and I tried to remember whether I had any real awareness, you know, of stigma during that time. And I think I didn't, because I grew up in a community that was impoverished enough where most of the school got free lunch. And then I remember some kids got reduced price lunch. And probably the kids that actually paid for the full price for lunch were probably, you know, in the minority. But at some point in high school, junior high, high school, I do remember a moment of awareness. You know, you have that uncomfortable awareness that somehow, oh, the poor people they're talking about, that's me. And I think that is an uncomfortable, you know, moment to kind of come to.
So where are you at on this bill?
Well, I don't know all the details about the bill, but I do know that we're talking about real people.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about real kids.
Well, and the studies show that if kids are hungry, or if they don't have good nutrition, they're not able to learn. And then you're like, those damn teachers, the test scores aren't high enough. It's like, yeah, that kid is sitting there like, you know, he's running on a Pop-Tart or something. So I don't know. We'll see if this goes through. I know that it's going to be a big. And I don't understand why it's a battle. I really don't.
It's pretty ridiculous. Yeah, we could probably pay for the thing just with interest off our constitutional budget reserve, which has $10 billion or so in it. Just pay for the $2 million a year, just with interest off of that.
Right.
It's no big deal. It's
hard to hear people use the rhetoric of children are the future, you know, and we've got to, like, you know, educate them, and they are as a responsibility. And to have people use kids as props, you know, in their ads and stuff. I'm like, why don't you have some pictures with the hungry ones, the ones that are like sniffing glue to feel less hungry? Like, this has happened.
That's intense.
I'm serious though. There are kids that have done that in this state, and I'm like, I know there's some really cute ones, but we need to like take care of all of them to a certain extent. Before we get to the break, I want to ask you guys both. Well, you're really involved with One Anchorage, which is, of course, going to be on the ballot April 3rd, and this is to have our GLBT. It sounds like a wonderful sandwich. Our wonderful members of our community to be listed with race, creed, religion, sex, not the yes or no, the M or F. To have them listed to be protected so that you couldn't say you're fired or you're evicted because you're gay. Actually, you can still fire and evict people. You just have to go in the closet with your bigotry. So you're working on that right now.
Well, actually, the ballot initiative, we have a number now. It's Proposition 5 on the municipal ballot.
High five.
Oh, that's cute.
It's One Anchorage and Prop 5. Those are the two numbers you need to remember. You know, it's incredibly simple. The question is whether or not we give the same equal protections under the law to all people, regardless of whether they are gay or straight or transgender. It's whether the question.
You guys are adorable.
And I think because the question is so straightforward and so simple, you know, for people who work hard and play by the rules, do they or do they not deserve the same legal rights as everyone else? It's a yes or a no question. And because the question is so simple, I think there's a deliberate attempt to try to create all kinds of other questions around that.
Right.
I mean, I think that, you know, in part, it's a little disingenuous because you can't deal with the main question. I mean, it's really hard to sell a viewpoint where you come out and say, no, I believe people that work hard and play by the rules should not receive the same legal protections as other people because they're gay. I mean, that's a really hard argument to make, even if you have sincere beliefs about that. Right. So you create lots of different arguments that act as distractors. We do have strong protections for religious liberties.
Which, by the way, you're not born as, you necessarily.
Well, a religious conviction and creed is something that you choose.
Right. But it's protected, is my point. We have to run to a break. We're going to come back, talk about this a little bit more. Also, Julie O'Malley, who wrote an article that was fabulous a while back, is now being, it's now getting tossed about with the opposition to Prop 5, and I want to get her clarification on that. And we need to make sure that that you're not going to have to get a divorce if this comes in, right? Is that that's what they're saying? Gay marriage is next, and then all the straight people have to get a divorce, find somebody that looks just like them, and it's going to be awkward, I know. We'll be back in just a minute. It's question time on More Up North. I know. If you were here with us at the Taproot, you could be asking your own. Ready, panel? This is my phone a friend team. Should we reduce the legislators? Oh my God, who are you? I'm going to kiss you on the face. Did you write this? Brilliant. He's going to be on the show next week because I love him already. Should we reduce the legislators per diem to 15 cents per day? I always thought, like, the healthcare debate What they should have done is say, okay, we're going to take away all your health care, Congress, and you'll get back what you figure out the American people are going to have to do. And you're going to get the same thing. And when you talk about the 15 cents a day, what is it, $14.99 per meal that a lobbyist can buy a legislator without having to report it? Do you know how many lunch specials for $14.99? Do you know? Just saying.
It's usually free lunches anyway.
Yeah, they're getting totally free.
Yeah.
They don't even have to pay 15 cents. Why is that guy not eating in Juneau?
Because
he's on a hunger strike because of the 15 cents a day.
Yeah,
right?
because Bill Stoltz won't pass the bill out of the Finance Committee, and so he's on strike until that happens. Bill Stoltz has apparently blocked it from getting out because what is it? I'm forgetting, but anyway, he's blocked it from getting out. So.
Right, so it's sitting in Bill Stoltz's Finance Committee.
Right. Oh, he doesn't want to create an entitlement program, another entitlement program.
Right.
So that's what he says is the issue. So.
Children.
$2 million doesn't count in Alaska.
Children entitled to lunch.
I think we should spend that money on, I don't know, like a bridge to an undeveloped part of Alaska, or just to keep talking about having a bridge to an undeveloped part of Alaska. That'd be a really good investment, for people.
I think we should have a study first.
A few of them. Yeah, and maybe we should buy up a whole bunch of viable businesses and shut them down, just in case we're gonna, bulldoze through the center of a neighborhood to build a bridge to no place for a whole bunch of money.
With no bike trail.
Yeah, right.
On the bridge.
No, or just not enough cars to really support the bridge, so that we end up paying for more. I think that'd be a better idea.
Yeah, there's so many ways we could spend $2 million.
So many ways, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
15 cents at a time.
15 cents at a time is a good start. I would just encourage people to call Bill Stoltz's office and just say, "Listen up, buckwheat."
I think he'll listen to that.
No, be respectful.
I think he'll listen to that.
Julia, Jim Minery keeps using a quote from you to justify opposition to Prop 5. What is your reaction to that?
Well, I think he stopped doing it. I think explain
the quote first.
Well, it's a column I wrote, and it was probably too subtle. I admit that. But I wrote about my own experience in Anchorage and whether I had experienced discrimination in housing or employment, which I haven't. And really, the portion of the column was directed toward my own community about why I think it's important for gay people to come out. And I wanted to tell them that I come out all the time, and I feel like it's important to do that because when people see that you're normal and you're not biting the head off a chicken, I think it is the single most politically effective thing you can do as a gay person. So that's why I wrote about that. Later on in the column, I write about how, in an earlier iteration of this argument, 30 years ago, my grandmother was involved in, she was on the assembly and they took it out of there was a time when gay people were protected and we took it out. My grandmother was involved in that. She wanted to keep it in, and she lived in New Naka Valley. Somebody burned a cross in her front yard. Later on, I also, in the column, go to talk to Jerry Prevost about it, and he kind of makes a veiled threat, about my mom, who was on the assembly at the time, about, it's hard to get people on this side of town don't get elected to the assembly if they get, too involved in these kind of things. So it was about sort of, working against her in politics. So certainly I demonstrate in the column ways in which, being an ally to a gay person can get you into some trouble historically, and that happens. And certainly I've experienced insensitivity and stupidness as a gay person, but I'm also a very privileged person. I'm white. You can't tell that I'm gay, so my experience is different than other people's. But what's happened is that because I wrote that, it's become sort of emblematic of the gay community in the eyes of certain sort of right-wing voices in our town. And I think the mayor, said, we don't have any proof there's discrimination. That's why I'm going to veto it. And that made the New York Times because it was so stupid.
Right.
Which was very special. That's very special. That's a very special reasoning there. But
yeah, and I think it's interesting too, the people, and we've got to run to a break. We're going to come back with more questions, but I think it's interesting that they would say this, and that the people who are talking and fighting this ordinance so much, I really wish they'd just get a room with each other and come out to all of us, because
that would hurt my
right, but
thinking. I don't need to see that or know about that. But
of all my gay friends, none of them think about gayness as much as Jim Minery and Jerry Prevost. That's why I think they should spend some time together. We have to go to a break. Yes. We have to go. We'll be right back. All right, we got a couple more questions here for our panel. For the pastor, do you really think America's under attack from Satan? No, I'm kidding. That was just Rick Santoro.
The score is 44-32.
It's a really intense...
It's halftime.
Yeah.
It's halftime, America. That's my best Clint Eastwood. Isn't it crazy? Okay, so would you agree that the Old Testament Christians are least tolerant of the religious followers? Think of Buddhists and Hindus.
Whoa.
That's the question.
My mind has exploded.
Oh, we have a wet cleanup on on stage for Julia. I think what they're trying to ask is that there's the sort of Old Testament-y Christians, when I say Christians, I spell it with an X. It's different. It's kind of like Xmas and Christmas. They're different. There's something really. It's that Old Testament, fire and brimstone, and it's Jesus kind of I like the Bible 2.0. That was really like the Beatitudes, way better than the so and so can be a slave and don't eat crab because I like crab. So, I mean, I think that was the question. You're sort of the 2.0 version of the Bible, and some of the other people.
Crab is okay.
I think one of the concerns that folks across the spectrum have is that this has the potential to be really nasty and really divisive, both within the Christian community, which is much more diverse than a lot of people think.
I would say much more divorced.
Much more divorced, that too.
Than the gay community.
Perhaps. But really, it's a diverse community, and one of the groups I'm working with is Christians for Equality. Probably 30-odd, 40 pastors who are working with, as a part of that group, a lot of lay leaders that are working on behalf of ballot Proposition 5, because whatever an individual might believe about biblical interpretation or the inspiration of Scripture or even human sexuality, the one thing that is agreed upon by that group is that whether we agree or disagree with someone, we treat everyone fairly and equally. That everyone deserves the same legal protections in housing and in employment and in public accommodations. That we don't hold those things out as rewards for agreeing with us or our doctrine.
Right.
And part of it is, if we had that level playing field, Shannyn, then I believe a lot of the extreme bigotry or hatred on both sides would begin to temper down a little bit. The reason I think folks feel very defensive on either side is because we've set this up as a win-lose proposition. If we have equality under the law for all people, that is a level playing field. Then whatever disagreements individuals have from one to the other, they can have civilly. We can honor one another's differences. We can talk about those. We can dialogue with people that we do not agree with. But a necessary prerequisite is we have to afford everyone full human dignity and full protection under the law.
So listen to him if you don't agree with me. Quick question. I don't think we've got a lot of time left. HB 262, which is Sharon Sista's new bill. Thank you for saying that, by the way. Would make it a crime for the TSA to use naked picture, full body scanners, or the touch our genitals. Without buying you a drink first. Why won't the House Judiciary move the bill? I don't know. I guess that they're for smaller government that doesn't look at you naked and grab your junk so you can get on a plane. I know. I love this whole thing. about smaller government. You know, you look at Congress, it's like, wow, they want to make it small enough to fit in your uterus. And now the House won't hear this. There's something broken in the House of Representatives of Alaska and Washington, D.C., frankly. There really is. And elections have consequences, and I'm hoping that in 2012 people will start paying attention to what they are holding up and holding Alaska back with. So we're going to be back next week. I've had a fabulous panel. Thanks for watching us. Thank you, panel, for being here.